Hello, everybody. I'm Melissa, and welcome back to Book Bar, and welcome to my favorite video to post, to film, to do all the things of my stats and faves. This will actually be a combination of September and October, because if you watched my video of my haul, so where I've been in a massive life slump, reading slump, YouTube slump, all of the things slump. And so I didn't film anything in the past couple months. So now I'm trying to get back into it. And I still want to talk about my faves and my stats and all that fun stuff because I love filming these videos. And I decided YouTube's for me. I'm doing what I want to do. So we're going to start with September. I'm going to just do my stats for both. And then I'll do my faves for both to come out combined to kind of keep the suspense up, you know. Dun dun dun. So basically, in the month of September, I read a total of 18 books. I carried 4 books over into October. I read a total of 6,850 pages. By far my lowest month. It's fine. I read 2 physical books, 14 audiobooks, and 2 ebooks. I had a really hard time reading with my eyeballs. Really hard time. Reading with my ears was fine, but reading my eyeballs, I just did not want to do any of that. Especially later in the month. I read none that were multi-book and ebook, or physical book and audiobook, or ebook and audiobook, none of that. I read 2 historical romances, 3 dark romances, 1 contemporary and 12 contemporary romances. My average rating was 4.5 stars. I read 7 5 stars, 4 4.5 stars, 7 4 stars. My top read day was the 26th of the month. I read 652 pages that day. And then I had a lot of days where I read 0 pages, but my lowest day that I did actually read, on the 24th and the 8th, both, I only read 11 pages. So those were my 2 lowest days. Then in October, I read a total of 21 books, and I carried 1 book over. That was Manacled. I'm still reading it. I'm hoping to get it done this week for the fan fiction readathon anyways, so hoping to get that done. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time. I just kept pushing it off because I did read other things, and so it was kind of getting put to the back burner, but now it's front and center. I read a total of 7,913 pages in October, so again, fairly low. Most months I've read over 9,000, closer to 10,000 every month, but that's okay. I had a hard time reading with my eyeballs, but it was better. I read 2 physical books, 6 ebooks, and 13 audiobooks, so still very much relying on audiobooks and not really reading with my eyeballs, but it did get better. And I read none that were multi-audiobook and ebook or anything, or audiobook and ebook or audiobook and physical book, none of those. I read 1 historical romance, 4 dark romances, 10 contemporary romances, 4 fantasy/paranormal romances, 1 nonfiction, and 1 that is just kind of a monster erotica. It was just a short little novella that I talk about in my wrap-ups. My average rating was 4.45 stars. I read 9 5 stars, 3 4.5 stars, 7 4 stars, no 3.5 stars, and 1 3 star, and then 1 I did not rate. My best read day was October 19th. I read 775 pages, and my worst day, that wasn't 0. So there were, again, many days where I didn't read at all, 0 pages. But my lowest day where I actually did read was the 14th. I only read 9 pages that day. But yeah, I don't want to talk a ton, so that's why I didn't do my normal, spiel of all the things where I discuss, all the things. But yeah, you can watch my wrap-up. It'll be right here. But in the month of September, we're now into the favorites. We're going to start with my honorable mention. I only had 1 in the month, and that was Enemies by Tijan. This book was fantastic, but it was technically a reread of a book that was 5 stars previously, so I had a feeling it was going to be 5 stars again, and I just absolutely adored it. And it was. This is Stone and Dusty, has had some trauma in her, like, family trauma, and she just decides one day that she's going to switch her major completely and switch schools, and she drives by herself to this Texas town where she's going to go to school to be a marine biologist, and she signs up to be a roommate. Like, she finds a roommate, like, subletting basically a place to stay, and she gets there, and her new roommates are horrible to her because the person that she's renting the room from, or she found the room from, was, like, a best friend of these girls, and she just, like, up and pieced out on them all. And so she kind of hates, they kind of hate her for this, but really they hate the other girl because of what she did, and just up and leaving them. But they take it out on Dusty, and Dusty's stepmom is kind of, like, trying to force her to get with this guy Stone, who is, like, he's a football player in the town, like, an actual professional football player, and he went to the school, and he's just very much well loved. But Dusty absolutely hates Stone because they were best friends when they were children, and then one day he just decides that he's too cool for her and stops talking to her and stops being friends with her, and it breaks her heart, and she's like, F this guy. And then his family does some stuff to her family, and so her stepmom is kind of harassing his mom to, like, get them to, like, talk, and he finally calls her and is like, tell your stepmother to stop, like, I want nothing, like, we're not friends, like, we don't have anything to do with each other. And then something happens, and she's like, yeah, I agree, I don't want anything to do with you. Then something happens, and Stone shows up at her house and completely changes her world again, rocks her world, and then she ends up in an accident and gets hit by, like, a semi-truck or tow truck or something, and ends up with a concussion, and he takes care of her, and they spend a lot of time together, and it's just beautiful. Then they break up again because she's like, she can't do this, and yeah, but yeah, I just loved it so much. I don't even know, like, I feel like I'm not talking about it great, but do know it is great, and it is kind of enemies to lovers, because she does not like him, and he doesn't really like her either. But of course, they're gonna fall in love. But that's my honorable mention. Then, my fifth favorite book of the month was The Marriage Effect by Karla Sorensen. This is the third book in the Washington Wolves series. They all could be read completely as standalones. Paige is the best friend of Allie from the first book. She's a former model, so you kind of know a little bit about her from the other books. She's also friends with Ava from the second book, because Allie kind of convinces Ava to, like, be friends with them. And so you'd see them, and then Logan attempts to kind of fake date Ava to help her out in the second book. So you kind of get to see them in the other books, but it is completely a standalone. Like, you'd be fine just reading this one. But this is Paige and Logan is the caretaker to his 4 younger sisters, which nobody knows. Like, he has kept this completely hidden from everybody. Nobody knows that he does this. And so, and then his younger brother kind of comes sniffing around and wants to become the legal guardian, because he was just kind of left with his sisters. Like, his stepmom was just like, peace out, they're yours now. And he was just kind of left with him. And now his younger brother is like, well, me and my wife can do more for them. And they don't want to go with him because he's kind of a D-bag. And Paige ended up, like, one of her aunts has passed away, and she's given this inheritance, but there's one stipulation: she needs to get married. So Logan and Paige decide, perfect timing, let's get married. Marriage of convenience. I love a contemporary marriage of convenience. It's so good. But yeah, of course they're gonna fall in love, and the sisters are gonna fall in love with Paige, and it was just fantastic. I gave 5 stars. Of course, all these are 5 stars. Then, my 4th favorite book of the month was Flawless by Elsie Silver. This is a small town bull riding hero, PR person, kind of heroine. She's kind of tasked to be his babysitter. Oh, turns out she had a poster of him on her wall when she was young. I love books like that. So it is an age gap and forced proximity, only one bed at one point. She goes and kind of lives with him. His family falls in love with her because she's, like, take no crap type of girl. Her dad is really funny and, like, really tries to play matchmaker between the two of them. And it's adorable. I give it 5 stars, of course. Then my third favorite book of the month was Bright Like Wildfire by Juliette Cross. This is another small town. I really want like my small town phase. This is another small town, enemies-ish. Like, she thinks of him as an enemy, but he doesn't think of her as an enemy. To lovers, it's great for theater. Like, they are doing a small town like theater production together, and they fall in love. It's Betty and why can't I think of his name? Ben? Is it Ben? Ben and Betty? Yeah, Ben and Betty. It's adorable. Yeah, I thought it was so cute. And then my second favorite book of the month was Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. This book is absolutely just gut-wrenching. I did a vlog where I read books that took the book internet by storm this summer, and this was one of the books that I read for that. I'll link it up here. And it 100% lived up to the expectation, and I can't wait to continue, but they're expensive. These are like $20 books on Amazon, and the ebooks are like $10. So it's like, if I'm going to buy it, I'm going to buy the physical book. And so I need to get them so I can read them. I just haven't had a chance to. But yeah, definitely probably on my next like Amazon purchase, we'll be getting Daisy Hates, because I need to continue. I need to get to BJ and Magnolia's second half of their story, because this does not end with a happily ever after or even a happy for now. It ends in a WTF, man. But yeah, it was so good. I absolutely lived up to the hype. Then my favorite book of the month was The Silent Waters by Brittainy Cherry, and that's just because this book broke my heart and sewed it back up and gave me all of the feels. It's a small town. Again, I was just loving the small town vibes. It's Brooks and Maggie, and when Maggie is young, she goes off to marry Brooks, and she's like waiting for him at this, like by a river or a creek or something, and she witnesses something horrific and has something horrific happen to her while she's waiting. Brooks ends up finding her a couple hours later. Like, he's very late to meet her, and he blames himself for what happened to her, because now she does not talk. She has gone silent. She won't talk. She's become very agoraphobic, so she has to be like homeschooled. She will not leave her house. Like, she has panic attacks, and yeah, she doesn't talk. Her family has just been completely changed. Her brother is still like the sweetest to her, but her little sister, who was like her best friend, they got in a fight right before she went off to go and do this, and her sister like absolutely hates her now, and her sister like acts out really bad against her, and it's just depressing. But Brooks is there for her in all of the ways, and he's just constantly by her side. They find a way to communicate with each other. They'll lay in bed and listen to music. He'll talk to her. She'll write notes to him. And I think it's her sister is like, are you really gonna force this guy who could go be a huge musician and be famous? Are you really gonna make him stay in this small town and live in this house with our parents? And so she kind of dumps him or breaks up with him and like convinces him to go off and live his life. He can't be stuck there because of her. And then he comes back and something tragic happens to him, and Maggie realizes that there's more, like, she needs to actually go out and live, and she's able to leave her house, and she goes to the hospital where he is, and it's just, like, I could cry talking about it, because I cried listening to it. It was just fantastic. I absolutely adored it. I mean, The Gravity of Us was fantastic, but so was this, and I just don't know. Like, The Gravity of Us was heartbreaking because of the family. This was heartbreaking because of the relationship. But of course, it is a romance, so it does have a happily ever after, and it ended up fantastic. But, the emotions, the gut-wrenchingness. Yeah. So, that was September. Now we're going to move on to October. My honorable mention, I have 2 this month. One is A Court of Wings and Ruin. This is a reread for me, so that's why it's in the honorable mentions, because it did actually end up higher than some of my other books on this list, but it goes in honorable mention because it is a reread. So I knew I was going to love it. This is the third book in that Couture series. Can't say much. But yeah. Just know a lot of craziness happens, and it's just fantastic. Then my other honorable mention is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This one is closed door, so that's why it ends up getting lower rated, because doesn't end up on the spice scale, because there is none. I mean, it's closed door, like there's some kisses and that's about it. And you know that they sleep together, but it's closed door. So it's an honorable mention because it just doesn't hold up to the spiciness of these other books, which I'm not saying that spice is what makes a book good, but in my opinion, that is how I rate books. Is I have a list, I have a set number, and there are books like Magnolia Parks, which has no spice in it, but like the angst and the tension and everything that happens in it makes it a little bit like I put that into the spice ranking, even though it isn't any, because there is no spice in Magnolia Parks, but like the tension and the build up and all of that stuff, and Part of Your World doesn't really have that, so it doesn't get any of my, because I don't do like a chili pepper rating. I just do like spice overall, like in my mind, and it makes sense in my brain. I have like metrics in my head that I think about when I'm doing it. But yeah, so Part of Your World is an honorable mention because it got a 0, or got a 1.5. So yeah. Number 5 was Witches Get Stitches by Juliette Cross. I absolutely adored this book. It was fantastic. This is the third book in the Stay a Spell series. Technically could be read as a standalone, but I wouldn't, because there is an overarching theme that happens throughout all of them that I know continues into the next couple, and will probably come to a culmination in the end. I don't know. It might even come to a culmination in the 5th book. I haven't read it yet, though, so I don't know. But this is Nico and Violet, and Nico is Mateo from the first book's cousin, and Violet is obviously a Savoy sister, so she's a witch. Nico is a werewolf. They had a chance encounter a couple years ago in Austin, and werewolves, of course, know their fated mate. They sense it, they feel it, they know. Their wolves are like, need to be with that person. So Nico knows. Violet is his fated mate. He's meant to be with her. So he uproots his life, leaves his pack, and goes to New Orleans to be by Violet and kind of convince her to be with him. And luckily he has a cousin there, so that works out. So he's brought into the family because the family of the Savoy sisters love Mateo, so they're like, well, we'll bring in his family. And Violet she thinks she learned something when she was young, and she thinks that Nico might be that person, but she does a tarot card reading for herself, which you should never do. And she misinterprets it. And so she pushes Nico away, like keeps pushing him away. And finally he's like, I've had enough. Like, I'm done. You know, they're business partners, but he's like done playing around. He knows that they're meant to be together. But she's like pushing him away. And finally she realizes, oh, I've misread this. We are meant to be together. Let's be together. And it was fantastic. I adored it. Loved it so much. So yeah. Then number 4 was Twisted Hate. This is the third book in the Twisted series by Anna Huang. This is Josh and Jules, and I will have nobody saying that this is not the best book in the series. I still have to read Twisted Lies, but from what I've heard, most people say Twisted Games is their favorite, but Twisted Hate is mine. Josh and Jules, Supremacy. They literally do not like each other, and they start their relationship as having hate sex, and oh my gosh, it is fantastic. I just adored it. So good. So wonderful. And Jules may have a little bit of a shady past, and she may prove Josh right in a couple ways, but she also proves him wrong. Yeah, it was great. Then number 3, the third favorite book, was Titans and Tiaras by Lex Martin. This is the second book in like it's football dads, basically. This is Ben and Sienna. Ben is Gabby from the first book's brother / writer, I think is his name. Why can't I remember his name? His roommate, possibly one of the dads from the first book. And Sienna is Gabby's former roommate from the first book. And they are friends. Sienna's kind of always had a crush on Ben, but when she became really good friends with Gabby, she pulled back because she was like, well, I can't do that to my best friend. Especially because Ben and Gabby were just starting to become family again in the first book. And so yeah, this could be read as a standalone, but it is better read together. Well, Ben, narrowly escaping becoming a dad in the first book, turns out his ex-girlfriend, who he knew had a kid, he knew his ex-girlfriend had a baby, she lied about who the father of her baby was, and it ends up turning out that it was Ben all along. Ben was the dad. And so Ben is dropped in with this 2-year-old, and his ex is like, but I want to get back together. And he's like, no, I have a girlfriend now. So he convinces Sienna to fake date him, and of course, fake dating turns to real feelings. But Sienna might be hiding some secrets of her own. She may have some secrets, and when Ben finds out, he freaks out. And then his ex-girlfriend does some shady stuff. And so Sienna kind of pushes Ben away. And of course, things are going to happen. They're going to realize they are meant to be. And yeah, of course, they fall in love. And it was fantastic. I still prefer the Varsity Dad Dilemma, but this one was great. So. And again, it's still in the top 5. Then my second favorite book of the month was The Takeover by TL Swan. This is the second book in the Miles High series, and it is so much better than the first book. I just absolutely adored it. Tristan and Claire, and Tristan is the takeover man for Miles Media, so he takes over smaller companies. Well, Claire's husband passes away and leaves his company to her, which is really meant for their 3 sons, who are younger. And Claire's got to try to keep it afloat. She's got to try to keep their company because this is her son's legacy, and she's not going to give it up without a fight. She ends up going to this conference in France, and the keynote speaker is none other than Tristan Miles, and they have had some hot chemistry since the beginning. And so he may convince her to sleep with him, and she may end up keeping his underpants on accident. And then her son finds it in her suitcase, and he may get a little upset as to why another man's underpants are in her. I mean, her husband has passed away, so there's no cheating or anything like that. But he's kind of like, what the heck? And Tristan then shows up at their house, and the son might do some funny things to Tristan with the underpants. And then the son ends up showing up at Miles Media because he has an interview with him to get an internship with Miles Media. And it's just hilarious. The oldest son. And it was so much fun. And Claire and Tristan try to kind of make it work, and there's some stuff that happens, and this boys end up falling in love with Tristan, and so does Claire, and he falls in love with the family, and it's just, beautiful. Fantastic. And then my number 1 favorite book of the month was Heartless by Elsie Silver. This book is so good. It is 100% lives up to the hype. As much as I love Flawless, Heartless was just leaps and bounds better. And, I mean, Flawless was 5 stars. This one, if I did 6 stars, would be 10 stars. I don't know. It's a bajillion stars. So good. Small town, single dad, nanny. The dirty talking on the man that is Cade is just chef's kiss. He is a dirty talking cowboy. And his son is just the most adorable little being ever to exist. And, yeah, I just absolutely loved it. Willa is a take no shit kind of girl. But she gets Luke wrapped around her little finger real quick. But she also is wrapped around his little finger real quick. And it's just adorable. And Cade loves the way that Willa is with his son. And it's just fantastic. I absolutely adore it. But yeah, that is all that I have to say. Those are my top 5 books from September and October, and all of the stats in between for both of those. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these. If not, you just want to let me know you're here. I'm going to start doing emoji because why not? Leave me a horse emoji for Heartless and sexy jockey cowboy man Cade and his dirty mouth. Leave me a horse emoji. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All that fun stuff. It really helps me out. I'll talk to you all in the next one. Bye!